Hello, my name is Kenneth Reid and I am a postdoc at Michigan State University, and I am going to be presenting the paper "The Factory Must Grow: Automation in Factorio" for GECCO 2021. I'm going to give a brief introduction and an overview of what the game Factorio is. I'm going to talk about this paper and what we've produced with our research so far, and then I want to discuss what we're planning to do with the project. These are the people who are involved. We don't have much time, 5 minutes max on this presentation, so please feel free to pause at any point to read the slides more fully. But these are all the wonderful people who helped get this paper published. Factorio is a video game that was produced by Weve Software and fully released last year. There are over 2.5 million copies sold, which is very impressive for a first-time games development company. They've won multiple awards as well. Factorio is a construction and management simulation game focused on resource gathering with real-time strategy and survival elements. Effectively, an engineer lands on an alien planet alone and must make use of the resources nearby to produce a factory to eventually produce a spaceship to escape the planet. And the goal of the game is to do this without dying to the elements, to the local alien wildlife, or to mishaps by the player's design, such as runaway trains. Here's a look at some of the problems. So this is what the game looks like on the inside. You see these belts, which are moving some objects within the game around. This is ore, it's coal and iron that are being processed and moved in different directions here, for example. And this is kind of the problem that we're dealing with today, is the maneuverability of these objects through a system. There's some other interesting problems in the game, for example, railway logistics. So here's a classic deadlock problem, as you see on screen, which is quite interesting. There's also vehicle routing problems, where you want vehicles to automatically move from place to place to pick up materials and drop them off elsewhere. So there's a slew of interesting problems in this game, including power management, where you have to produce enough power using local resources and making power stations, like on the left. Each individual item is placed there by a player and designed carefully of where to place them in an efficient manner. On the right-hand side is an example of the in-game dialogue showing you production across everything in the past hour, which is quite fascinating. So all this data is available to us as players to see and work with. There's also the decision-making elements. You have to decide what is the best way to spend your time most efficiently. But what have we done so far? So we produced this paper to GECCO 2021. We've also got a preprint available on arXiv, which is much longer and has much more detail to it, so please do check that out. We're also working on a journal paper to extend this. We've also produced a language-agnostic mod interface to the game, which means that you don't need to write a mod within the Lua programming language to write your own optimizers for the video game. You can use our interface, which will allow you to use any external optimizer that you please, such as Java, Python, Scala, that will then send parameters to our interface, which can then talk to Factorio and back. And that's how that's one of the main outcomes of this project, is it allows others to begin working on similar works. On the left-hand side is the problem that we did for this paper as an example of problems that could be tackled. A very simple one, which is creating belts through a system. We have a set of solvers that we decided to try out and see how they create solutions to problems. And here's an example of a pretty poor-looking solution where we move from an input to the top right to an output on the bottom left. Of that image on the left-hand side. And you can see that it successfully does what it's supposed to do, is passing materials from input to output. But there's a lot of excess there, so there are some problems with that solution there. On the right-hand side is kind of how this works and how it's encoded. We do it with pure integers. So some integers represent belts' directions, types of belt, obstacles, input, output, all that sort of thing. So there are other papers that mention Factorio in the field, but nothing more than an abstract in the form of a poster in the field of optimization. So this is really the first published work in Factorio in this field. So here's the overarching view of this project. Our initial paper is here, and the arXiv paper as well. From here, we plan to do a slew of interesting interdisciplinary projects, including real-world optimization and operational research, environmental sciences, general meta-heuristic education, because it's useful to show meta-heuristics being used to create solutions to problems in front of you in a visual way. as well as the final goal is to have this ecosystem of complex interdependent problems and solvers which work together for a final goal. And we think that this working in a temporal situation like a video game with 60 ticks per second is a really complex, really difficult problem that is really interesting. Thank you very much for your time. If you are interested in hearing more, please check out my website, which is on the end of my email, kenreid.co.uk. You can also check out all the other places there to find out more. Thank you so much for your time today.